today your question's answered. I just wanted to answer the general question that I get quite a bit is, what are my favourite Australian hardwoods? Because I know there's a lot of American content out there, and we know a lot about the different American timbers, but what about Australian timbers? Well, for me, I actually don't use a large array of Australian timbers. I use a lot of Jarrah, like this one here, Tasmanian oak, and that's not actually an oak tree, it's a eucalyptus just like the Jarrah. And it's a series of different eucalyptuses that include things like Victorian ash as well. So they're all this sort of light coloured timber that has a slight pink and yellow tinge to it. And there is another timber that falls into this category, but I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And then I use a lot of pine, mainly for cost reasons. Pine is inexpensive and you can do quite a lot with it, and for the most part it's a little bit easier to work with most hand tools as well, so that's not a bad thing, but it's mainly the cost. Now there's other things that you'd see me have, like these ones here, which is like you get these laminated boards from our local big box store Bunnings, she oak, acacia, like the bottom timber on here that I made my initial toolbox out of. This is Carry, and there's a few other of these pre-laminated boards that come packed in plastic. You can get them in pine, Carry, sometimes Jarrah and a few others, and so occasionally I'll grab one of those if it's suitable for the project that I'm doing, and quite often if I find them discounted I'll go ahead and get them because they get cleared out, they get brought down to half price, and I quite often pick them up then, which is how I had so much of the she oak boards that they no longer sell. They were getting rid of them and I bought a whole bunch up, and that's why I ended up making the original toolbox video out of that. And any of these projects I'm talking about, I will leave them down below so you can actually check those videos out. Then of course I use sheet goods as well, so things like this quite bad quality but easily accessible from the big box store, these pine plywood. It's not the best, it's only 3 plies, it's very splintery, not in the best quality, but if you're careful with it, you can still work it with hand tools and it comes out looking pretty good. And the other one that I like to use, if I can get it sometimes, but it's gone through the roof in price, is this red oak veneered plywood. Now this is actually a 5 ply, but the red oak veneer is very, very fine, like most veneer that you find, and is probably in the order of 1 millimeter in thickness, something like that. So you've got to be very careful with the dressed front of it, and I'll just show you over here some of the places where I've used some of this timber, and then I'll go into some of the old timber that I've got here, which happens to be more Jarrah, and so we'll just have a look at the wood storage as well as part of this. So first off I wanted to show this, which was the door of my original tool cabinet here. And this was actually all Tasmanian oak, so it's all Tasmanian oak, and then it's got that red veneered plywood in the back here as a doubled up layer. It's a double 7mm layer, one held in and then another one sat inside here to add some thickness to it so you could attach stuff to it. Obviously kind of defunct now because of how I'm reusing it, but Tasmanian oak and Jarrah. Jarrah as highlights, and I like using the Jarrah as highlights because it works very well. Here's the other door, obviously using it for hand plane storage. Once again, same as that other one. Red oak veneer, Tasmanian oak. And you can see various colour changes in the Tasmanian oak. You can get these dark ones, you get these light ones, get some sort of salmony pink colour to it as well at times, which you can kind of see over here. It's a little bit salmon in colour. Come over here, I've got a lot of reclaimed Jarrah up here on the wall. This is Tasmanian oak, and I repurposed this as the main carcass of my original tool cabinet, which was chopped off here, which had the actual lower piece here with the drawers, which we'll have a look at in a sec. And I repurposed it here to cover it with this whiteboard, and we will be putting this in a door in an upcoming project, so you got that to look forward to. And once again, Tasmanian oak, I wanted to keep them, but then in here, to space these out, because I couldn't do dados, is I've actually just put these filler pine pieces in, so I like to integrate Tasmanian oak with the pine and some of the contrasting colours, and they kind of work well together in my opinion. Then there's some old Jarrah floorboards over here, and then if we look down here, I've integrated these here where I've got these carry laminated boards chopped up as the drawer fronts, some Jarrah pulls. I never did finish this cabinet. I was trying to design a way for it to work and I never ended up finishing it, so it's a little unfinished, and that's why I don't mention it much, but it does function as storage and we might be doing an upgrade on this at some point. Then we're going to look back down over here. I think this was the very first build series that I put on there. It's really the only build series I've done. It's 4 videos. It was done in the early days of the channel when I was first looking for some storage. And so this is a combination of pine and Jarrah in this build. Got these thick pine bits here. This is all done with a amber shellac in colour. And you can see the combination of the pine plywood here, which is only 5-7 mil, something like that. And then to strengthen it, it's got these Jarrah strips that have a channel put in them with a plough plane, and then that's glued on here. Likewise, we've got Jarrah strips on the front of these shelves, and then a strip on the back to thicken them and make it more solid. And then it's got 7 mil plywood on the top here. And so I very much like using the Jarrah to offset some of the pine, and it comes up looking really nice with the combinations. And you'll also see here, this was off my original tool cabinet, and these are through dovetails. That's pine on these drawers with a Jarrah front. I said we'd have a quick look over here. This is my wood storage. A lot of old reclaimed Jarrah that I picked up off Facebook Marketplace, and just a whole host of stuff here. If we look up a little bit higher, I've got some old floorboards here, some bits of pine and just miscellaneous bits. And down here, a bunch of different pine as well. And so that's what I do. I collect some of these bits and I save bits and use them as highlights on pieces. That's a bit of a long-winded answer to say that the main Australian woods that I use in terms of hardwoods is Jarrah and Tasmanian oak, and then obviously Australian radiata pine. I use quite a bit of that as well, and any of these other laminated panels that I get a hold of every now and then, I'll integrate them if I get them at a decent price. So really the factors affecting the hardwoods I use is cost, and I'm yet to find a place that I'm actually happy with buying my timber from in terms of hardwoods that don't have lots of waste because of warping and all that, because of the way they're stored. So that's another factor that affects what I use. And the local big box store, Bunnings, as you all know, is one of my main sources of getting at least Tasmanian oak, which is not cheap, but I've already got the Tasmanian oak in here, and so I just want to keep that aesthetic going through here, and so I try to use it where possible for builds within the workshop just to keep continuity. So, until next time, bye for now, and leave your questions down below.